back to SixSq Classroom. This is lesson number 2. And to pick up where we left off, this is the Nuvla.io web portal. And before we actually sign up, create an account and log in and start doing hands-on and technical stuff, it is important for you guys to have at least a rough knowledge of the architectures behind Nuvla and NuvlaBox, the two main products from SixSq. The reason why is because you'll be using those a lot during the course. So it is useful to understand sometimes when you do an operation or an action to understand what's happening under the hood and what those operations actually mean and how you can exploit them if you want to do more things beyond this course. So as we said before, both Nuvla and NuvlaBox are open source. So if you go to GitHub and search for Nuvla first, for example, here, you will find all the code, all the software repositories that constitute the Nuvla software stack. Everything is open source under Apache 2.0, so you can take this, install it yourself in your own infrastructure and maintain it yourself as your own instance of Nuvla. And also NuvlaBox, everything as well is open source, also under Apache 2.0, so the same way you can install Nuvla by yourself, you can also deploy the NuvlaBox software stack and configure it to speak with your own Nuvla instance. The other option is to use our public offering of Nuvla, which is called Nuvla.io. But before doing so, click on Getting Started, and these are the docs that you can read later if you want. Let's click on Nuvla and go straight for the software architecture that constitutes this software stack. So Nuvla, as you know, it's an application management platform, and it basically deals with infrastructures and applications. Okay, so there are management capabilities in Nuvla that handle application and infrastructure management, app store, public or private. You also have data management functionalities here that allow you to couple data sets with your application deployments. Then we have end-to-end security, which includes access to VPN connections to your edge fleet, for example. And finally, and of course, the edge control. This is where from Nuvla you can remotely manage all of your edge devices and edge infrastructure. So the key point, the key takeaway here is that Nuvla speaks with infrastructures. So you need to have an infrastructure before you actually manage and deploy your applications, right? So it doesn't matter whether those applications will run on a public infrastructure or a private one or at the edge, your personal laptop, it doesn't really matter. Nuvla is container compliant. So as long as you have what we call a container as a service, CaaS, we can combine these and import those infrastructures into Nuvla and start managing them from there. As long as we see a Docker Swarm or Kubernetes endpoint, we should be fine. And the same applies for the NuvlaBox. Okay? So if we scroll down here and have a look at how the NuvlaBox works, we will also find what we have said before, that the NuvlaBox is purely a software stack that transforms your device into an edge device. And you will also find sometimes two concepts that are called the NuvlaBox engine and NuvlaBox OS. So it is important to understand that the engine is the core of the NuvlaBox. It's the actual software components that constitute the NuvlaBox software, and the OS is something that we will not address for now. So let's just jump into the NuvlaBox engine. And from here, you will see that first, we have already set up Nuvla before, so now we understand that Nuvla speaks with infrastructures. And let's say we have our own user operating system, which is our own infrastructure. Let's say it's any device, doesn't matter. And inside, we also have Docker. So we have the Docker engine installed there. And because both Nuvla and NuvlaBox are Docker native, we can install a set of containers, which are represented by these red boxes here, roughly. And all of those components together, they constitute the NuvlaBox engine that will turn your device into a NuvlaBox and expose those endpoints to Nuvla. So everything working together is what we call the NuvlaBox, and that's what you manage from Nuvla. And it has multiple functionalities from sensor data gateway, for example, to telemetry, to self-activation into Nuvla and security procedures. It also has a local user interface and network management for VPN access. It has plenty of features, and another very important one is what we call the peripheral managers, because you are at the edge with the NuvlaBox, so you will be speaking with IoT sensors, for example, and peripherals, and those components there automate the discovery, categorization, and the bridging of sensor data into your applications. So for example, if you use the data gateway, you don't need to speak the native sensor protocol, you can just consume data through MQTT, and that's offered to you via the NuvlaBox. So having those two concepts in mind, Nuvla and NuvlaBox, it is important to also place them in a real use case scenario. Okay, one example of a deployment that we like to show, if you go here to tutorials and you click on edge to cloud, it is a scenario that we combine the edge and the cloud, and there's a video for it on YouTube, so you can just find it and have a look there. It's very quick, it's quite simple, and this is the high-level diagram of the use case, which is we have the NuvlaBox at the edge. We are using a Raspberry Pi in this example, and we have Nuvla that is sitting in a cloud. We start by deploying a Edge AI app to the NuvlaBox, which is connected to a USB camera, and this app is basically just detecting motion. Okay, we do this connection and deployment through a VPN secure channel that is also provided through Nuvla.io, and then at the same time we deploy another app, which is just a message broker, to a random cloud provider. All right, what the app at the edge is doing is to trigger a notification every time there's movement, there's motion, and sends this message to the cloud. And because the cloud is accessible, has a public IP, we can access this notification from anywhere at any time. In this case, through our smartphone, and you'll see that in the video. So this is where you place the Nuvla and NuvlaBox technologies in this cloud-to-edge continuum. So that's pretty much it for this lesson. From the next lesson onwards, we'll be doing much more technical stuff, starting with the sign up, registration with Nuvla, and log in and start doing some work. So until then, have a look at the references below and stay tuned. Cheers!